Hey, welcome back, everybody. This is the third and final, uh, for now, video on Pablo Records. Hope you enjoyed the other two, and thank you for coming back here today to hear about a few more Pablo records in my collection. If you like what you heard, please subscribe, like the channel, all that good stuff. It helps the algorithms. Anyhow, thank you for being here. Uh, some new and one or two from the catalog, Pablo Records. Again, a very underrated label. Thank you all for your comments. There have been some great comments here, and I really appreciate it. Let's start off with Knight Rider, Count Basie and Oscar Peterson. You know, I can't think of two totally different players, styles, in some sense similar, but I mean, one is very different from the other in the way they play. Both equally as amazing. Some of the stuff that Basie's done with small groups, boy, he knows how to stay out of the way, but yet add the right notes at the right time. A lot of players, horn players, have commented on that. But Knight Rider, again, done in 1980, Pablo 2310-843, with Louis Bellson, John Hurd. Again, Louis Bellson, you know, very, very, not an underrated drummer, but kind of in the shadow of Buddy Rich, and maybe a couple of the other big band drummers. But the one thing about Louis is that he had the ability to play with small groups and big bands. I saw Buddy with a small group in New York, and it didn't cut it. Buddy's a machine. He was a great drummer. I mean, he was a machine. I don't think he had the soul that Louis Bellson and of course Joe Jones and a lot of these other players had. He could play it all, but I don't think he had the soul. Anyhow, it's just my opinion. But Count Basie plays piano and actually plays organ on one of the cuts on here. And they do duos back and forth and really work well together. Val Valentine was the engineer on this. Pablo Records, anything that was done with Val Valentine, is going to be really good. Sound-wise, amazing. Playing amazing. Done in Hollywood. Val Valentine worked in Hollywood. And just a great record. I listened to this last night. The version of Sweet Lorraine on here is just really amazing. And there's a tune called Blues for Pamela. It's the last cut on here. Is just really tasty and done so well. Count Basie and Oscar Peterson on Pablo Records. Great playing, great sounding record. Two diverse players in some ways, and in some ways not. Done really well. Another Oscar Peterson. Oscar did a lot of work with Norman Granz. Again, I said in one of my earlier videos, if you haven't seen it, Norman Granz, when he formed Pablo, he was not looking for new talent. And he recruited a lot of the players that he knew from jazz to Philharmonic, thus a lot of recordings that featured Oscar Peterson, and quite a few with Dizzy Gillespie. Here's one with another duo, but now it's Oscar and Dizzy, 2310-740 from 1974, I believe, November 74. Recorded in England, but a really good engineered and good mastered disc. I have to tell you that I have a lot of Dizzy Gillespie records. I love Dizzy's playing. This is up there, I would say, in the top, certainly in the top 5 of what I think is his greatest playing. He plays so good on this record. Caravan, Autumn Leaves, Close Your Eyes, and how about Con Alma? Any musicians out there ever tried to blow on Con Alma? It's a hard tune. Dizzy, of course, it's his tune. John Burks Gillespie. But he did it. He plays so good on this record. Sound is amazing. Excuse me. It sounds like they're right in the room. Pablo 2310-740. This is a must, I think, for any serious Pablo collector. I think it's one of Dizzy's greatest recordings and Pablo's cleanest recordings. Pablo Records. Don't you love that cover? Probably shot during the session. See the boom of the microphone. Great record. Here's an interesting record. This is a later series of Pablo that said digital on it. Recorded in 1981. Clark Terry, Yes, the Blues. These are all blues tunes. I think there's 6 tunes on here. And with Eddie Cleanhead Vinson. The interesting thing about this Pablo record for 1981, red vinyl. Digital was just starting to come into popularity back in the early 80s, and this was probably marketed as a digital recording. It's actually a good recording. It's clean, it sounds good, but it has that digital sound to it. Not trying to be an analog snob here, but it does have that digital sound to it. It's very clean, but doesn't have the body that, for example, a Dizzy and Oscar Peterson record has. Interesting, though, red vinyl. I think this is the earliest red vinyl record I've ever seen. Maybe there's others, I don't know. But for 1981, red vinyl, quite interesting. Sound-wise, playing-wise, it's okay. It's not one of Clark Terry's greatest hits record. He plays okay on this. There's just some dirty blues on here, Eddie Cleanhead Vinson. He sings a blues or two on here. There's a harmonica player on here. It's an interesting record. I wouldn't say it's one of my favorite records, but it's interesting in that it is red vinyl, and it is marketed as digital. Interesting to have. It's in good condition, I found. And Clark Terry. I love Clark Terry's playing. I don't think this is some of his best playing, by the way, but interesting to have. This is interesting to have. Johnny Hodges. Pablo's sound, I'd put it right up there almost with contemporary, some of these records that were made in terms of sound for the period of recording. Johnny Hodges has such a full sound. Bird took a lot of his sound from Johnny Hodges in a way. But this record, it's a double record. Pablo Live, again, a later series of Pablo where they did a lot of live recordings. This is Pablo 2620-102. A lot of live recordings were done during this live period that Pablo published and released records. But this is a Duke Ellington situation with Hodges, Lawrence Brown, Harry Carney, Ray Nance, Sam Woodyard, Aaron Bell, and Al Williams. All Duke Ellington standards. Take the A-Train, Mood Indigo, Satin Doll, things ain't what they used to be. You name it. Any Duke Ellington standard, it's on this record. But for a 7 or 8 piece band, what a sound, and well recorded. It's done live in Berlin, but really well recorded. And there's times in here you would think you were hearing the whole band. the voicings and just the way these guys knew each other, knew what each other's going to play, and you know, I mean, they knew these tunes backwards and forwards for playing them every night. But what a great two sounding recordings. Find this, folks. This is one of Pablo's, I think, one of their best records. Just great. I could keep going on and on about this record. But Pablo Live, Duke Ellington tunes with Duke Ellington players back in 1981 in the Sportsplatz in Berlin, Germany. Great record. Find that one too. Let's see what else is here. Oh yeah. What? No, I sound like a broken record here. No pun intended. But so many Pablo records really sound great, and this record is one of them. And it's great because it's a small group, kind of like what Marty Paich did in contemporary with some of the Art Pepper things, and then with Art under his own name. Marty Paich, great arranger, as Bill Holman is. Those of you who know Bill Holman from the Kenton years and some other things, just a great arranger. But Zoot Sims, born in Los Angeles, got the name Zoot. He's playing with a band out there when he was very young, and they put crazy names that meant nothing on the music stands. The music stand that Zoot had was the name on that stand was Zoot, so he adopted that name. And that's how he got to be called Zoot Sims. Real swinging player, real warm player, influenced by Lester Young, Ben Webster, and I think Don Byas too. But just a great sound. And Duke knew how to swing. Zoot had a up and down early career. You know, he moved to New York for a while, didn't get a lot of work, and I think I read somewhere that he actually was painting houses when he went out on the road prior to going on the road with Woody Herman, where he became one of the four brothers, and then did a lot of work with Al Cohn, a great alto player, and made a lot of great records. I'll have to talk about them someday. But Zoot Sims is just a great swinging player, and what a band. Bill Hood, don't know too much about Bill Hood. Richie Kamuka, and actually he plays tenor on this head clarinet, but Zoot is a tenor player, but lets Richie play on a couple of tunes, quite a bit on here. Frank Rossellino's on this. This is done in 1976, 2 years before Rossellino died. Another story. But Oscar Bashir on trumpet, good player. Snooky Young on trumpet. And Snooky actually plays a couple solos on this record, which is really interesting. You don't hear I don't have too many records that Snooky plays solos on. Snooky was a lead player. I first saw Snooky live with the Thad Jones Mel Lewis Band in the early 70s, late 60s, early 70s. And then, of course, if you watch some of the old Johnny Carson reruns, you'll see the little black trumpet player in the back. That's Snooky Young. Snooky would overdub Doc's parts. I would watch it, and I realized that he was playing the same notes as I think Doc was playing, maybe to make Doc sound better. Snooky Young was maybe as good a lead player as there ever was. Just a great player. Russ Tompkins, the pianist, again from the Tonight Show Band, did a lot of couple great recordings with Jack Sheldon as a duo. Russ Tompkins, Monty Budwig on bass, Nick Ceroli on drums. If you don't know who Nick Ceroli is, and you know who the Tijuana Brass is, Herb Alpert, the Tijuana Brass, had great players in that band, believe it or not. And Nick Ceroli was the drummer in the Tijuana Brass. Great player. I think I saw him with the Bob Florence Band in L.A. A really good drummer. Recorded in Los Angeles at RCA, so you know it's going to be a decent recording. Back in 1976. Grover Helsley was the engineer. He's not Val Valentine, but he's damn close. Grants was really picky on wanted these records to sound good, and they sound great. This is a great record. Small band, really tight band, and great playing by Zoot Sims. Hawthorne Nights. This is, I think, one of Pablo's greatest records as well. 2310-783. Hawthorne Nights, Zoot Sims. You know, and that's about it. Oh yeah, one other thing. I don't have this on record. I wish I did. I actually have never seen it on record, and I'm sure it's out. But this is what you were listening to, the original tune on there, Charlie Parker tune. Art Pepper and Zoot Sims. This is a CD, AAD, so you've got to buy a CD, analog, digital. That's the way to go. But again, great swinging playing by Art Pepper and Zoot Sims. Barney Kessel on guitar, Victor Feldman, Ray Brown on bass. Can you go wrong with that? Charlie Hayden on bass. I've never seen Charlie Hayden on Pablo before. I think this might be the only thing he did with a group. Obviously a West Coast group recorded at the University of California, Los Angeles, UCLA, in 1981. So it's a later recording. I don't think this might be out on LP, but I have it on CD. It's really a great record. And Billy Higgins, Smilin' Billy on drums. But Art Pepper, Zoot Sims, great tunes too. Over the Rainbow, Ipanema, and a blues. Great playing, a great group. Pablo Records. Art and Zoot Sims. I don't think they've ever. I think this might be the only thing that they did together. I'm not sure, but it's a great thing. Anyhow, that's about it for today. Again, this will be the last installment of Pablo, but we'll talk about some other Pablo records coming down the pike. I can't talk about this because I haven't heard it yet. I hear it's great. Up in Duke's workshop, it's a compilation of studio recordings in '69 and '70 of Duke Ellington. But the cool thing about this, why I haven't heard it, just got here. I found it on Discogs from a seller in Europe, in great shape, and it's sealed up, brand new. Paid about $30 for this, which is high for a Pablo record. But this is going to be tonight's listen, and maybe we'll talk about this next week when we talk about some other new recordings. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And until next time, we'll see you soon.